course, she was, first female to ever lift the
We're ready to begin this evening's board meeting. The school board meeting of August 8th, 2017 is now called to order. The time is 6:04 p.m. At this time, we do request that all electronic devices be turned off or put into the silent mode. Also, we ask that you refrain from using flash photography except during any special presentations portions of the meeting. We would like to take this opportunity to remind the members of the public of the district's mission, which is to ensure that each student achieves his or her highest personal potential, and of the district's vision to be a world-class school system. This evening's agenda includes the invocation, the Pledge of Allegiance, one recognition, one acknowledgement, public comment. Consent action items, which include one item under Executive Services, 3 items under Academic Services, 3 items under Business Services, 1 item under Human Resources, and 4 items under Operations, as well as 5 superintendent's recommendations, 3 of which are for good cause. Dr. Atkins, will you please provide an explanation for those 3 items?
Yes, ma'am. First item relates to Pivot Charter School, which is a good cause item requested because the governing board of Pivot Charter School found itself financially able to open school for this year and voted to terminate their charter on August 1st. The action is being brought forward tonight so that it can be considered before the first day of school. The second item has to do with our mainframe upgrades being brought forward as good cause to accommodate the transition to a new mainframe system over winter break. It's important to hit this window just right, and will also allow us to save significant dollars if we do it at this time. The third involves 3 administrative transitions, and that's so that we can have high-quality principals in place for the start of our school year.
Thank you, Dr. Atkins. As presiding officer, I find that there is good cause to add these 3 items to the agenda. Also on the agenda are 4 items under other business. Board members, is there a motion to adopt the agenda?
So moved.
Moved by Mrs. LaRiviere and seconded by Dr. Kuckel. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Motion carries 6-0. This evening, Mrs. Patrica will deliver the invocation, after which Dr. Kuckel will lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance. Please rise for the invocation.
Dear God, thank you for the gift of education in every form. As our children prepare to start a new year, may confidence be their foundation, may grace be their guide, and may hope be their compass toward a bright future. I pray they would have eyes to see the needs of those around them and a heart to love well. May they face each day with positivity, knowing that no matter what comes their way, they don't have to face it alone. Thank you for the amazing teachers who have given their lives to serve our children. As they prepare for the new year, fill them with strength to lead, grace to guide, and hope to thrive in their classrooms. Bless them beyond measure for their willingness to pour into the next generation through education. Amen.
Amen.
Please join me in the pledge. I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
presentation.
Good evening. As our board comes to the front, I would like to ask the following people to join me here at the lectern. Dr. Angela Pruitt, the Chief for our Human Resources. Mrs. Jamie Covert, Principal of Ida Baker. Greg Passanen, the Regional Vice President of Suncoast Credit Union. Diane McDaniel, the Regional Vice President of Suncoast Credit Union. And Cindy Helton, Foundation of Executive Director for Suncoast Credit Union. I'd also like to ask for Emma Sikoria and Alexis Ellsworth to please join me. We had spoken today at the board briefing about the opportunities for us to be able to get to fill our needs for our teachers. And we have our Grow Your Own Student Scholarship Program. This is with the goal of creating a local pipeline of educators to aid the current teacher shortage that we face in Lee County as well as throughout Florida. The Suncoast Credit Union Foundation has made a contribution of $50,000 with a potential of adding incrementally for a total of $250,000. This grant will support the district's Grow Your Own Teacher program. Over time, this initiative will create a more seasoned teaching force in the district, bringing stability to our students and reducing the costs created by teacher turnover. We would like to really thank Suncoast Credit Union Foundation for their support with this generous and important initiative. The school board and superintendent are very pleased tonight to recognize Emma Sikoria and Alexis Ellsworth as the spring 2017 Grow Your Own Student Scholarship recipients. These students both graduated from the Teaching Academy at Ida Baker High School and will both be attending Florida Southwestern College. Congratulations. Here. Congratulations. Yes, please. Why she's saying
Isn't this exciting? I also just want to, the teacher's here too, so I wanted to thank her. This is Claudia Cassione, and so she's the wonderful teacher. And I also want to thank Christine Christensen, who really did the bulk of the work on this. And so thank you very much.
Please, another applause for our youth.
Thank you. The character word for August is responsibility, which is defined as accountability for your personal choices, obligations, and duties. The quote connected with our word of the month is, "You cannot escape the responsibility of tomorrow by evading it today." Abraham Lincoln. And the design that you see displayed on the screens was created by Dallas Farnan, a 2017 graduate of Riverdale High School. The next item on the agenda is public comment. Mr. Martin, will you please address the agenda item of public comment?
School board policy provides the opportunity at this point in the meeting to address the board concerning any matter on this meeting's agenda or any other matter relevant to the operation of the school district. If you completed a card and submitted that to me before the meeting began, you'll be called in the order of the card submitted. If you did not submit a card but still wish to address the school board this evening, the school board chair, Ms. Fisher, will give you an opportunity in a moment to express that desire. The rules concerning public comment are posted at the back of the room. The board does not respond during public comment time to remarks made by speakers. At the conclusion of public comment time, the school board chair may address concerns raised by speakers or may assign responsibility to the superintendent to do so. Speakers are expected to act in a respectful manner. Those who fail to do so after being warned by the meeting chair may be required to leave the meeting. Disruptive attacks on individuals are prohibited. The time allowed per speaker is 3 minutes. Ms. Fisher, I have 3 cards this evening.
Thank you, Mr. Martin. Is there anyone on the right side of the auditorium who did not fill in a card and would like to speak? Anyone on the left side? Mr. Martin, please call the first card.
Christopher Bartlett.
Christopher Bartlett, I'm asking for your help. I'm asking for your help to keep my son and daughter safe. Kismet Parkway in Northwest Cape Coral is dangerous. 2 years ago, I stood before you and asked you to keep Jane and Dylan safe by changing their bus stop to a safe location, and you did. Thank you. I'm here again asking for your help. My son and daughter are again assigned to the same dangerous bus stop I spoke about 2 years ago. If they were asked to walk down a safe street, fine, but they are not. They will be required to walk down Kismet Parkway, walk down the edge of a dangerous road, mornings in the dark, a road in which cars regularly drive in excess of 60 miles an hour, no sidewalks, just weeds, and crossing a canal bridge. This is an extremely dangerous situation. Kismet Parkway in Northwest Cape Coral is a road where a boy was hit and killed by a deputy sheriff 3 years ago. It's a road that the Cape Coral Police Department and the Lee County Sheriff's Department acknowledge is a problem area. I'm worried. I'm asking for your help so Jane and Dylan can walk to their bus stop and from safely. I'm asking you to keep them safe. Will you help me? Thank you.
Fox?
Thank you, Board. To start by getting on you like you ought to be. The meeting this afternoon was supposed to start at 2 o'clock. It started at 2:15. At 2 o'clock, there's only 2 of you here. Every student in this district and every teacher needs to be where they're supposed to be, when they're supposed to be there, and start it at that time. This board needs to start by setting an example and following it. You can't get loose on things like that because it all permeates down. That kid comes in late to class and teachers, gets on and gives them the detention. Well, set the right example is what I'm trying to say. Particularly because the meeting that you were having was so important with the legislative agenda and everything. It would have behooved, I would have liked to seen 7 people here, ready to roll, fired up, instead of straggling in at 15 after. But anyways, that being said, I've read the agenda your legislative agenda, and I like it. I think it's very, very good. I think it's pretty aggressive on paper, and it's a step in the right direction. And it just is going to come down to this board, and I'm going to keep coming in here and telling you guys this every single time. You can't hire a government liaison person. You can't depend on the Tallahassee lobbyist. It comes down to the 7 of you getting out there and taking what that state legislature's done to you and beating them over the head with it, because they deserve it. And you should get tough, and you should get out there and fight for this district. You know what I'm saying? The old rules are over with. They don't respect you. They're trying to dissolve you. You need to fight. Okay? Your legislative agenda should be in the paper tomorrow morning. And every one of you should be saying, if we don't get this, we're leaving. Simple as that. Because what's the point in even being here if you're not doing what you're supposed to be doing? You're not. Each and every year they take more and more away from you and more away from the kids. And it's really that simple. Each one of the 7 of you need to resolve that you're going to make a difference, not hire somebody to do that for you. You, each and every one of you. I know you all personally, and every single one of you are fine, high-character people. But it takes hard work, and it's going to take a street fight to get this thing done. Simple as that. Take off the gloves and go get it. Thank you.
Anthony Thomas?
Good evening, school board members. I've asked some of you to get the answer for me, and nobody hasn't been able to successfully do it. So I'm going to ask Greg Atkins, the superintendent. Dr. Atkins, is Jim Browder working for the school district either as a consultant or in any capacity? We're hearing stuff that the man is in the building, that he's going to be the assistant superintendent of curriculum. That position hasn't been filled. I want to know. I've asked my board members to get the information. They haven't been able to get it, so I'll do it myself. So Greg Atkins, please answer that question when my time is up. When you talk about your legislative agenda, I think you all need to put on the legislative agenda to have term limits, a referendum. There are many of you who've promised us that you all would put that on your legislative agenda, and Matt Caldwell and Ray Rodriguez has said that they will do everything they can to pass the local bill to allow that to happen, to put that on the ballot next year. I think 8 years on the school board is enough. When this issue was put on the ballot in 2014, Lee County citizens approved it overwhelmingly. I think it was 88%. Now, the final thing I want to address to you all tonight is something of deep concern to me, and it ought to be concern to you. I have been hearing some very troubling reports coming out of the maintenance department. I've talked to you all before about this maintenance department. I want to tell the citizens of Lee County, when Nancy Graham sat in that superintendent's chair, she was getting ready to fire Jimmy Flock because Nancy had done an investigation and she had determined that there was a lot of nefarious stuff going on in that maintenance department. But before Nancy Graham can pull the trigger, and I know because I talked to her, she was going to fire him and make some more changes in her administrative team. Before she was able to do so, they stabbed her in the back and forced her out and forced her to retire. Now that's the backstory. Many citizens in Lee County don't know the true story behind Nancy Graham being forced out or retiring because of a mutiny that took place down here. But I got to tell you, Mr. Superintendent, you've been a superintendent before. You were over the maintenance department and in your supervisory position as the assistant superintendent of operations. I understand that this fellow, Jimmy Flock, may be your friend. But you can't be friends with people. You have to be the boss and the employer of people. And you got to rein this stuff in, because I can tell you I've been doing my homework on what's going on in that maintenance department. And you all talk about raising hell with Matt Caldwell and Ray Rodriguez in the Tallahassee about monies and the fact that they're not giving you the monies you need. Well, if you all look at what's going on in that maintenance department, look at businesses that are being run, you don't have no inventory of stuff that's being bought there, you got a lot of problems. So before you go talking to Matt Caldwell them about something, you need to clean up your own house. Thank you.
Thank you for taking the time to come and speak. Dr. Atkins, will you have someone from Transportation contact Mr. Bartlett to try to help him with that bus stop issue?
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay, Mr. Fox, today was the briefing on the proposed legislative agenda. We have a process that we have to follow, so I don't think we're ready to put it in the newspaper yet, but we're working on that process. Thank you. And Mr. Thomas, thank you for your comments. Next on the agenda is the approval of action items in the agenda under consent. Board members, are there any items that you wish to pull for discussion under the unfinished business table items portion of the agenda? Dr. Kuckel.
I have none.
Mrs. LaRiviere.
I have none.
Mr. Toiber.
I have none.
Ms. Patrica.
I have none.
None.
And I have none. Is there a motion to approve this evening's action consent?
Second.
Thank you. Moved by Mrs. Patrica, seconded by Mr. Toiber. It's going to be a quick meeting, isn't it? Okay. Dr. Atkins, would you like to introduce anybody this evening?
Why don't you take the vote?
Oh, all in favor? Please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Motion carries 6-0. And now, Dr. Atkins, will you introduce?
Yes, ma'am,
Anybody?
absolutely. First, I would like to introduce Dale Houchin. You just appointed him principal of the Alva School.
No, we have not. Those are good cause items. That comes down in superintendent's recommendations. This is only consent agenda. We'll applause here in a minute. With the vote
We'll
statement.
apply you a second time, wherever you want.
All right, yes, we'll applaud you a second time. Yeah, I have another one.
Okay, this was a,
Don Beckman, Challenger Middle teacher to Gulf Elementary assistant principal. I'll save the last one for the good cause.
okay.
Okay, my fault.
Thank you. No, it was my fault. Thank you. Okay. And now, superintendent's recommendations. Dr. Atkins, please state your first recommendation for good cause.
Sure. The first recommendation, I recommend board approval of the notice to voluntarily terminate the contract with Pivot Educational, Inc. for Pivot Charter School. The request by the school's governing body is effective August 1st, 2017, and will relinquish the charter and dissolve the school pursuant to the terms and conditions of the contract, board policy, and Florida statutes. Approval authorizes the superintendent to execute related documents.
Board members, is there a motion to approve?
So moved.
Moved by Mr. Teuber, seconded by Ms. Patrica. Any discussion? All those in favor, please signify by saying aye. Aye. Motion carries 6-0. Second one, please, Dr. Atkins.
Second recommendation, I recommend board approval of the purchase of the IBM mainframe hardware, software, installation, and 3-year support and maintenance services from Mainline Information Systems at a cost not to exceed $1,343,053. Approval authorizes the superintendent to execute all related documents.
Board members, you've heard the superintendent's recommendation. Is there a motion to approve?
So move.
Moved by Dr. Kuckel, seconded by Mrs. LaRiviere. Any discussion? Mr. Teuber.
Thank you. Thank you, Madam Chair. Dr. Atkins, just for edification for the public on this, can you say why this is so important and why you're excited? And can you tell a bit more to the crowd? Because this is it's a big purchase. It's a good purchase. It's timely, but I think the public needs to know where we're moving to and why we're doing it.
Absolutely. I'll just go through a couple of bullet points. But before I do that, first of all, I have to commend the whole team for a lot of work on this project to get it to this recommendation so quickly. I acknowledged Mr. Martin earlier this evening, this afternoon, and Mr. Davis and his team. This is literally the backbone of our system, of our mainframe system. These are significant upgrades that will take this system that is over 10 years old, that has actually come to the end of its service life, and it gives it really the upgrade that it needs to do some of the initiatives that we are moving forward with pretty rapidly, like Castle 2020 and others. This is going to allow us to be more efficient, and also it's saving the district significant dollars, because what we're able to do is utilize some of the old system along with the new system and take advantage of that time frame and get this installed and ready to go, and then we're able to return that equipment. So this is really going to, I think, take us into the 21st century finally, and I want to commend the team. Right now we've got 40% of the information hitting Castle 2020, and you know, I think we're moving towards 100%, and then he's got a lot of other initiatives right behind this. So a lot going on with this project, and you know, I thank you for the approval of this evening.
Thank you. Yes.
Thank you, Mr. Yeah, that was just the part I want, you know, the ability, we've got a staff of tech people here that will parallel any of the software. Most school districts buy their software and then they become obsolete, or they make changes that don't really fully adapt to what we have. And in-house, we can do things better, faster, and more efficient, and meet the needs of our teachers and our school-based people much more efficiently with our team. And so we had the horses. We just didn't have the cart to be pulled, and they were just kind of getting maxed out. We were holding back their potential as far as a lot of things that we can do now without having to use paper processes for procedures. It can all be electronic, and moving things that make the jobs in the classroom easier and make the administration easier. So it's a great thing, and I support it. And I thank Dr. Atkins, but more importantly, the team that we got here that's putting it to work. Thank you for what you guys do.
Thank you. Any other discussion, board members? Okay, then all in favor, please signify by saying aye. 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 Motion carries 6-0. Number 3, Dr. Atkins.
Next item, I recommend board approval of the following administrative actions. Dale Halchin, appointment, the Alva School Principal, effective August 9th, 2017. Ron Schuyler, resignation, Fort Myers Middle Academy, turnaround school principal, effective August 4th, 2017. Lynn Edward, transfer from the Alva School principal to Fort Myers Middle Academy principal, effective August 1st, 2017.
Board members, is there a motion to approve?
So moved.
Moved by Mr. Teuber and seconded by Mrs. Patrica. Any discussion? Okay, then all in favor, please signify by saying aye. 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 Motion carries 6-0. And now, Dr. Atkins, will you continue with your introductions? I know Mrs. Beckman was part of the consent agenda.
Yes, she
Congratulations.
was. So we introduce Mr. Halchin and welcome him back to our district. Alchin, for those of you who do not know, has extensive experience, previous experience at the Alva School, and also has extensive and excellent experience at Veterans Park, which is a K-8 school, which is, of course, what the Alva School is. So I'm sure we're certainly going to benefit by his experience. And then we are also absolutely thrilled with this next appointment, which is Lynn Edward, is moving from the Alva School to the Fort Myers Middle Academy. So, and again, something that's important is to have a school like Fort Myers Middle Academy have a principal of the caliber of Lynn Edward is extremely important, and we're looking forward to great things from both of these principals and also our assistant principal appointment this evening.
Thank you, Dr. Atkins. Congratulations to all of you. Okay, on with the superintendent's recommendations.
Next, I recommend the school board approval of the designated school bus routes as presented for the 2017-2018 school year, and authorization for the superintendent to make any necessary adjustments in bus routes throughout the school year as required.
Board members, you've heard the recommendation. Is there a motion to approve?
So moved.
Moved by Mrs. LaRiviere, support by Dr. Kuckel. Any discussion? Mrs. Patrica?
I just think it's really important for the public to understand how hard our transportation department has worked and the incredible progress that they've made. Mr. Cody and his staff have been able to cut our bus routes. Last year we had 764. This year we have 754, resulting in about $300,000 in savings.
With 1,500 more students.
With 1,500 more students and with adding 20 minutes of mandatory recess because of 7069, he was able to keep the bus routes down despite that change very late in the planning process. So he and his staff have done a fantastic job, and I just want the public to know that we're always looking for ways to be more efficient.
Thank you. Any other discussion? All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Motion carries 6-0.
Next one, I recommend board approval of the uniform statewide assessment calendar, which includes district-required assessments for the 2017-18 school year as submitted at an estimated cost of $882,432. Approval also authorizes the superintendent to modify the testing schedule administration windows as needed and to make other modifications resulting in the revisions made by the Florida Department of Education.
Thank you. Is there a motion to approve, board members? Moved by Mrs. Patrica.
Second.
Seconded by Mrs. LaRiviere. Any discussion? All those in favor, please signify by saying aye. Aye. Motion carries 6-0. Okay, we are down to the end. Board members' comments. Dr. Kuckel.
Nothing, I don't have anything this evening, except that we hope to have a very successful start of the year. Thank everybody that's here, our new staff, our new administrators, and it's going to be a great year.
Mrs. LaRiviere.
Just a request that we might want to consider. One of the main reason we were late getting in here is that we did have that executive session that went on right up until 2 o'clock, and then we had to allow time for personal hygiene, so to speak. So I am making a request because we do have an executive session scheduled for August the 22nd. I was curious if it's possible to change the time for the briefing meeting so that it begins at 2:15 rather than 2 o'clock, so that it allows all of us to be here on time for the start of the meeting. So that's just, I'm opening up not as just a comment, but as a question and checking the board and Mr. Martin to see if that's a possibility.
It is possible that the time has already been noticed in the monthly ad, so there would have to be a correction ad for that purpose.
Dr. Atkins? Oh.
Well, my suggestion is that we can work with staff and just make sure that we're done so that you have enough time to transition to the briefing.
Okay, well,
We'll
you
do-
know, part of that is we ask questions, so I understand that sometimes it's not necessarily staff's fault. Okay.
Thank you, Mrs. LaRiviere. Mr. Toiber.
Thank you. First off, to Mr. Bartlett, thank you for coming down here. I apologize. I appreciate you coming down and speaking to the board. Typically, it's not necessary. The fact that it happened last year and didn't happen this year, you know, they've got, just as Ms. Patrica said, you know, we've got 725 bus routes with, you know, 30 stops per bus. It's like herding cats, and they try to do all the things, and for it not to get caught again, it just defaulted to their GPS, their programming system. Next time I would ask you if you just call the transportation office, as you know, Dr. Atkins is, that's the first call he's going to make, I guarantee you, and they'll fix it, you know, Johnny on the spot. So, you know, to all the parents, you know, we get a lot of calls to our office to fix a problem, and we do represent everybody. All 93,000 children belong to all 7 of us, and we take that very seriously. But we don't fix problems, we set policy, and so we refer it to Dr. Atkins because he runs the ship, and he puts it to the people that are under him that are all very well equipped and tasked. So it gets that way whether it comes to us and it goes there or it goes directly to you. So I implore parents, if you have a concern, please don't hold it within yourself. Our goal is to make your experience, you know, from the first day to the last day for your family and your students the best. And our staff takes that job very seriously. And they hear all the complaints, whether it's be busing or just anything, any educational issue whatsoever. I mean, our staff is designed to please, and try to serve you to the best that they can. So I implore you to get to them first. If it doesn't happen, then you can, you know, and you're always welcome to come and speak to us, but I just don't, to me, to take the effort out of your life, you know, I apologize for the district, and I'm sure Dr. Atkins feels the same way. It was just, we just missed it, but it wasn't the fact that your children won't get, you know, the safety that it required, especially when I heard it said they did it last year. I could see Dr. Atkins going, well, it's going to happen again this year, you know, so it wasn't a problem. Sometimes we have issues that we can't fix, you know, inherent because of some reason or another, but if they fixed it once, then, you know, I don't see a problem, but I'll leave that to Dr. Atkins. And again, Ms. LaRiviere, talked to you, Mr. Fox. We're trying to get a lot of stuff done in a day, and we had an executive session, and probably most of it was my fault because I was asking a whole lot of questions, and we dragged over, and then once we get done with a session, we go right into a briefing, then into an action meeting, and we have to take care of, you know, personal business and so on. So we get here as fast as we can. Typically with our student hearings, we make the notice that it goes back to back, and that may be a notice we want to put when we doing things like this that says as soon as the one preceding it allows, that would let us do that. And that's about it. And that's all I have.
Thank you, Mr. Torber. Mrs. Patrica.
1 day, 8 hours, 27 minutes, and 54 seconds until school starts.
Can I be like Chris again?
Yes,
one more,
go.
Madam Chair, one more. Just like,
Yes, you may.
I want to thank Ms. Fisher, you know, and one of the reasons why all of our board wasn't there, Ms. Fisher, thank you for your efforts, was all the way across on the other side of the state and drove all the way over there, and she had to drive all the way back to make this meeting, representing us as far as legislative issues and agendas for our legislative platform. And so I appreciate Ms. Fisher for the work that she's doing for us, and that is why she was not with us, and thank you for being here and bright-eyed and bushy-tailed after that long drive.
Thank you. Great.
All right, I'm not going to repeat the countdown again. I'm just saying I'm excited for school to start.
Write it
And
down.
I do really want to thank Suncoast Credit Union because their generosity has allowed us to do things in this district and affect students and teachers in our schools that we would never have been able to do otherwise. I was thanking them as they were coming through the line, and they were like, well, of course, this is what we would do. It's just their attitude in giving to the district is second to none, and I'm very, very appreciative, and that's all I have.
Thank you. Mrs. Giovanelli?
I'm just excited. We got one more day and school starts, so I'm glad the new teachers are here, and I'm excited for the ones that came back and are going to support our whole Lee County 2020 division. So I'm excited. Thank you.
Thank you. And I'll be brief, but I do want to say that I had an opportunity to participate in a Florida Students First Education Assessment and Testing Task Force. They've been running task force around the state to look at our assessment and testing calendars and to find ways to allow teachers more time to teach, to be more concise and precise with our data collection. And so some of the discussion that took place at FAU this afternoon with the participation of Senator Renee Garcia and Senator Gary Farmer, who work very closely with their school board in Palm Beach, and the Palm Beach Chairman Chuck Shaw and some other representatives of Charter Schools USA, et cetera, talked a little bit about how important assessment is and how necessary it is, but that it's one piece of the puzzle. And so they asked the question, where are we going? We want to prepare kids for college and career. We want to define what that success looks like. We want to take time to consider the variables, our English language learners, our special needs students, the need for soft skills as requested by our business communities, and also the fact that they were able to finally, the last 6 months, hear directly from educators and students about their impressions about how they were affected by the amount of assessment and testing that we're doing. So they came up with a caveat that we were going to look statewide at common sense assessment, accountability, and testing, and to try to base assessments and performance in connection with instruction, and to make sure that we're not burdening children with homework because there's not enough teaching time. And someone said that they had done a survey with some educators who are not teaching, not because they don't want to teach, but because they don't want to spend their time testing, and that they feel like that may be contributing to our state and nationwide teacher shortage. So there was a quote that was talked about by Thomas Edison: "There's always a way to do it better. Find it." So I'm encouraged that so many people statewide, along with the legislators, are working and looking at bringing something new to the table during the next legislative session. And so we may be having some other representatives at the last task force on Friday in Orlando, and that would be Mrs. Giovanelli and our Director of Assessment and Testing, Richard Itzen. So I look forward to hearing what comes out of that, and we will report back to you. Thank you. Mr. Martin, any comments?
Yes, Ms. Fisher, board members, just one item. Ms. Morgan, of course, couldn't be here this evening celebrating birth of her grandchild in another state. She did ask that I share with you that she had no concerns with the items on the consent agenda, and she supported all 5 superintendent's recommendations this evening. That's all I have.
Thank you. And Dr. Atkins?
Just a couple brief comments. First of all, just a little opportunity to handle some rumor control. The comment that was made earlier this evening about Dr. Browder, I first of all want to make it clear, Dr. Browder was the regional executive director for this area, and up until June 30. So his job was to literally walk around this district and work with our differentiated accountability schools. And beyond that, there's no contractual agreement with him or no plans to bring him on board in a position. One of the things with the chief academic officer, which is still open, we have actually engaged Ray & Associates, which is a recruiting firm, to find us a qualified candidate. So we're literally going around the nation in order to find us the best person for this particular position, because we're all about teaching and learning, and this position is critical for that. We're looking for somebody who literally is world-class in that area. So that's why that position remains open, because I'm just not going to settle for anything less than world-class. The second comment about the maintenance department, I would say that one of the things that we are planning to do is have an operational audit. That's something this board has a chance to weigh in on. We're going to bring that forward to a workshop in the very near future. One of the areas that we were really focused on would be the maintenance department. And I know that when Mr. Law, I believe it was Mr. Law, asked Mr. Flock about, we may be doing it, his comment was absolutely, because we want to demonstrate that that we are doing things right in this particular maintenance department. And as an employee and an administrator of this district for a long period of time, I will have to tell you that my experience has been, has been less than desirable in a maintenance department up until Mr. Flock's tenure. And if you go, what I would encourage you to do is go ask principals in terms of what they feel about the level of service they've received from the maintenance department under Mr. Flock's leadership. And I think that is a better judge of the type of quality work that we get from that particular department. So again, absolutely willing to bring on an audit and look at the work function within that department. And then secondly, customer service, and that means from our schools, I think, is higher than ever before. And then the final thing is if there's anything that Mr. Thomas would like to provide professional standards, please do so. We are transparent and we will investigate any and all concerns. Also, Mr. Bartlett, I didn't recognize you when you first came in. Both of us have had some adjustments in our hairstyle since we worked together. He was a wonderful teacher that I got the opportunity to work with at Paul Lawrence Dunbar Middle School. And so we will be more than happy to work with you. I did get a text while I was commenting that Mr. Cody, our Executive Director of Transportation, will be contacting you in the near future, probably tomorrow, and he will work with you in terms of that concern. We also have Mr. Laws in the back. Mr. Buchanan is here. They both work in transportation. Mr. Buchanan, I think, is currently over your area, so they might want to touch base with you as well, but I'm sure we can take care of that. And then my final comment is looking forward to opening day. I mean, a lot of excitement in the air, and so we're really looking forward to a great year.
Thank you, and we congratulate our new administrators, and we thank Suncoast again, and we hope that everyone has a safe, happy, and productive school year. On Tuesday, August 22nd, there is a school board briefing meeting at 2 p.m., as well as a school board action meeting at 6 p.m. At this point, having no other business to come before this body, I will entertain a motion for adjournment.
So moved.
By Mrs. LaRiviere, seconded by Mrs. Giovanelli. All those in favor?
All right.
This meeting is adjourned. Thank you very much, and safe home.